have a story to tell. Everyone is different as well. You have something to say. Your story matters too. Your story matters too.
Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of My Story Matters. Last week, we featured an interview between myself, Lois Rindlisbacher, and Elisa Preston. And this week, we will be featuring a discussion between Elisa's brother, Joel Preston, and Gord Hambly. So sit back and relax and enjoy another episode of My Story Matters.
So let's start with this one. So name 3 words that best describe you.
Now, I would say integrity, reliable, and considerate.
That's good. That's good.
And
Those are 3 good characters.
And what 3 would describe you?
I would say probably bold, funny, and kind. Or at least most days.
Okay.
So what are things that you enjoy doing the most?
I actually, and it's going to come out probably again, I actually really enjoy helping people out.
Right.
Now, obviously, I can't spend a lot of time doing that in my day, so I really enjoy sports, always have.
Right.
Love to be outside, it sort of goes along with the sports. So those would be the big. How about you, Joel?
I like few sort of things. I like playing the piano. I have a very musical family, so they raised me, play lots of different instruments, video games, but also I like reading as well. Like listening to music, playing sports, nothing too, unusual, but yeah.
Okay, well, I'd add then I like doing puzzles. Becomes important as you get older. So I do, things like Suzuki.
Right.
Not Suzuki.
Suzuki.
Sudoku. My favorite one is a math one called Ken-Kens.
Okay.
And I also do another math one starts with K. I'm thinking karaoke, but I got the wrong word.
No,
people
games,
will know.
They have weird.
Kakuro. There we are.
There
Kakuro. And and I do a fair bit of reading, although I don't like reading.
Right.
I never have. But in my scientific training, I had to do a lot, so I still get magazines in that interest me, and so reading, keeping up on the news, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, puzzles seem definitely a lot more productive than video games, so you got me there. So what are your best talents, would you say?
Best talents? Whoa. Okay, well, I'm a decent organizer, but I don't like to be an administrator,
Right.
which is interesting.
Yeah.
But I'm very well organized, and along with the reliability, so you can count on me. My word stands, and that's the key things.
Yeah.
I would say.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm decent in sports. And
Right.
Tennis is probably my best.
Oh
sport.
yeah, tennis.
Yeah.
Do you watch a lot of tennis?
I like to watch the big tournaments. And,
Yeah. Do you have a favorite player?
Certainly the Canadians. Felix Auger-Aliassime. Right now, Milos Raonic.
Right.
Incredible. He's making a comeback in his mid-30s.
Yeah, with Canadians,
trying to play again, but he keeps getting injured. Anyways.
Yeah. Well, that's sports.
Yeah.
Yeah, my favorite is Roger Federer. I got him from home.
Oh, yeah.
I don't watch a lot of tennis, but it's kind of one of those things.
Yeah.
One of your family members just kind of tells you who your favorite team or player is.
Yeah.
So, how old are you?
Oh, 79. How old are you?
I'm 17. I'm 17.
Well, there we go.
So I got one more year, and then I'm a real man. But
okay, well,
so
I'm sure you're a real man now.
Yeah, trying to be.
Yeah.
So, where do you live?
Okay, well, I was born and raised in Toronto, but I actually spent 43 and a half years in Montreal.
Oh, okay.
Went for a year and a half to Tennessee in 83, 84, but I couldn't get my green card.
Okay.
But I was teaching at a Christian liberal arts college, it was a great experience in so many ways. And then went back to Quebec, to Montreal, and then 8.5 years ago moved here to Tecumseh.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Sweet.
And
I
knew
live in
absolutely nobody
Right.
in Windsor.
Right. So you said you lived in Montreal for a while. Do you speak any French?
Now, je peux parler français.
Ah.
So we moved there in 1970 in the middle of the FLQ crisis, which
All
people
right.
only know if they're older.
Right.
Yeah, after a few years there, I decided I would just pay the big bucks and learn French, and it was one of the better decisions I've made in my life. And I
Yeah.
still read La Presse every night.
Okay.
So
nice.
now I'm trying to learn Spanish, but that's
really?
mainly to keep the mind active.
Yeah,
but,
me too. Actually, I'm trying to learn Spanish. I'm going on a missions trip in a year, and I'm trying to learn a little bit of Spanish on this app. It's called Duolingo.
That's exactly what I'm learning.
Oh, really sweet. Perfect.
Yeah, I took one course years ago because Cuba is the best value for your buck.
Right.
Best bang for your buck.
Yeah.
From Montreal and probably also from here. And so I learned it theoretically to help me in Cuba, and it did. We were in Cuba a year ago, and I was able to communicate with the maids who couldn't communicate in English. I was able to communicate a bit with them, but I'd be a lot better now.
Yeah. Seems you're a lot more ahead of the game than me. I think all I know is really like buenas noches or buenos dias.
Okay,
I'm still
well,
working
the
on
French,
basics,
the
but
French really helps. Believe me,
Yeah.
learning and already
Right.
knowing
Once
the
you know.
French carries over to the Spanish.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So I guess we already know what languages you speak. So do you identify with a particular faith?
Well, evangelical, just in general. And how about you?
Yeah, I'm a Christian as well. Yeah, devoted Christian. I think I can't really tell I was born to a Christian family. So I can't really quite, tell when I became a Christian. Sometime in my childhood.
Yeah. No, mine was different. I was. My dad died when I was actually 2 years of age, and my mother never remarried. But she did bring us to church with her faithfully, but it was a very liberal church.
Oh, okay.
So it was interesting. I had in a summer job when I was just about your age. I was working a lot of midnight shift, and this Christian couple had me to their home for lunch and said, "We challenge you to read the New Testament." And I did, and what an eye-opener, reading things that I just had not been taught in my liberal church.
Right.
So that was the beginning of a journey, and that culminated in me, learning and accepting Jesus. And that's one reason I prize the Bible so highly, because if you're not into it, maybe like me, you're not getting the full story.
Yeah.
So, reading it really opened my eyes.
Absolutely, yeah. Reading the Bible for sure. So do you identify with a race or ethnicity?
I'm Caucasian.
Yeah.
Typical white Anglo-Saxon WASP.
The usual kind of white hodgepodge, a little bit of French,
white
British.
Anglo-Saxon Protestant, that's it.
Yeah.
We're both WASP.
Yeah. So what sports do you play, or what sports do you follow?
Whoa, a lot.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I was a pole vaulter.
Okay.
Which was really, very, very good. It was really good. So currently, tennis is my big one, but I also play badminton, pickleball, I kayak. I'm big on kayaking.
Okay.
I cycle. When I was in Cuba last year, from the age of 50, I took up windsurfing at 50.
Windsurfing?
Windsurfing.
Can you explain that to me? It sounds familiar.
Okay, windsurfing, as you think of regular surfing, you have a board, you put a sail on it.
Okay.
You grab that sail and catch the wind and move it around. It's a very difficult sport to learn.
Yeah.
And I liked the challenge of it, and it did take me quite a while to learn it. But eventually I bought my own board. I almost killed myself. That's probably the closest I came to dying.
Yeah.
Is when I was windsurfing once. I had to be rescued by the Coast Guard, and I was just going into hypothermia.
Wow.
when they rescued me. But anyways, I still windsurfed last year in Cuba.
Sweet.
So I sold my stuff 4 years ago because it's not as safe here in Windsor as it was in Montreal.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow. That's really cool. So you
Yeah.
just kind of fell off the board?
No, what actually happened, it's an interesting story. I was in Cuba actually.
Okay.
I was already a pretty good windsurfer, and they had a small board there, and whereas my board was big. And there's something called planing, where you bounce on the waves and you really get speed.
Okay.
On my board, I couldn't plane, but I got on that board in Cuba, and I took off.
Oh boy.
I really took off.
All right.
And I thought, okay, this is exciting. I came back. There was one company in Montreal that still sold windsurfing stuff. And I said, okay, I had this board in Cuba, not a sinker, but a small board, and I was able to plane. So they sold me a small board. And like an idiot, it was the last day in May, and it's Montreal, and I was really eager. So I went out, and I got that thing up, and I just couldn't control it. And then the weather, the wind and the weather turned bad, and I didn't have a wetsuit at that stage.
Oh.
And so I was hitting the water off, and I finally gave up, but I could not get back to where I began because the current and the wind were taking me down. And I'm looking, and I figured I could paddle about probably 1 hour to make it to shore. So I'd taken my the sail down, and I put it underneath me, and I was just starting to paddle when the Coast Guard came out because somebody had dumped a boat on the other side of Lac St. Louis. It's a big lake.
Right.
And I just happened to be there in the way.
That's lucky.
And yes, they pulled me in, they whipped me to shore, and the guy saw that my whole body just started shaking, and he said, get warm quickly.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
Scary, because although I was saying I was an hour from shore, who knows? And who knows with hypothermia whether that would have been it.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, so I went out and got a slightly bigger board the next day and bought myself a wetsuit.
There you go, learning experience.
Yeah.
All right, so tell me a little more about your life history. You said a bit more, so would you like to elaborate on that?
Okay, I can tell you some interesting things. I mentioned my dad died when I was 2 years of age. He died of ulcerative colitis, and they were doing the operation back then for it, but he was so sick. It was 1947. He was so sick, my mother said they couldn't get him healthy enough to do the operation. So I'm going through life, and a bit of an uptight individual at times. And I had one terrible experience public speaking in high school when I was only probably 13. That made me even more nervous. Anyways, some really dumb things were done. Like the dumbest, I was accelerated twice, and I'm not bragging. Okay. The first time, okay, I did years 6 and 7, grade 6 and 7 together. The second, we go into high school, grade 9 in Ontario. First day of in the homeroom, teacher, he says, you're all guinea pigs. All 30 of us, he says, you're going to do high school in 4 years, not 5. Went to grade 13.
Oh, okay.
And so here I am, basically, I think I was the second youngest person in class. And here I'm being accelerated again.
Wow.
And so, and that affected me, like, and then this experience, what happened, we were doing actually an oral in French. And I was at the age where I was noticing girls. So probably 13.
Right.
And French I wasn't strong in French back then. And I just got so uptight, my voice froze.
Okay.
And all I could do was squeak, and my whole body was shaking. Terrible experience. And so after that, I was, anytime I had to give a public speech, I was really nervous.
Okay.
Really nervous. That combined with being so young and then going to university and everything, by my 3rd year in university at Queen's, I was in a 4-year program, I started to run into health problems. Was diagnosed a few years later with ulcerative colitis, which my father died of. And then, long story short, I got my PhD in organic chemistry. We moved to Montreal. Didn't have a job. It was simply a 1-year industrial scholarship. And then I was in Montreal literally for 3 months, and I was in the hospital with the ulcerative colitis had gotten so bad.
Right.
So, yeah, I had a big operation in February of '71, turning point in my life. I could very easily have died. It was a Saturday morning because I wasn't going to make it through the weekend. But that, on the positive side, my life turned around from then. You reset your priorities. And the Lord really looked after me, got me through that. And then quite a remarkable situation where I got this teaching job. Just a remarkable turn of events. And I spent most of my time at John Abbott College in Montreal, other than the 1.5 years in Tennessee. So that's big. Met my wife. And we that was before that. So when I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, we were already engaged. And the doctor, said to her, "Okay, you've got a decision to make." So she went through with it, and here we are, 53 years later.
Awesome.
So other big change in my life, I would say, my wife got cancer at about age 50.
Okay.
And I'm a type A personality,
Right.
so a little bit, fairly intense. But at that stage, it was dramatic because I was about to go into the heaviest teaching load that our department ever had in January, just ridiculous. And then my wife was officially diagnosed in about December. And so I just went to our chairman, who was a very reasonable person, and I said, "Look, I can't be doing this. I've got to get a lighter load." And so I just taught general chemistry because that was tough when she was undergoing treatment, and so that taught me to watch your priorities.
Right.
So from that time on, yes, I was much paying more attention to my wife and less to the job, realizing it's a job.
Wow.
Don't kill yourself for the job.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's an amazing story. It seems like God's really had his hand in
the
your life.
Lord's been good to
Absolutely.
us. Yeah,
Definitely seemed like you have a lot of grit too.
I got some grit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what was the living situation like in your family growing up? I know your father died when you were 2, so what was that like?
We were very much middle class. Today you might even call us low class, but I don't think so.
Okay.
I grew up in a semi-detached house. Okay, so there's another family on the other side of this big house, and there's a wall, and my brother and I could hear them, and they could hear us through the wall. 1920s house, so post-World War I. But, it was in Toronto. It was, I was happy. It was not, we were middle class.
Yeah.
And so not a huge amount of money, but not poor. My mother had it far, far worse. When she was born in 1911, went through the war, went through the Great Depression, went through losing her husband, and a lot of tough times. So basically, I had a happy childhood. And that sort of thing. I'm supposed to be interviewing you too, so I assume you're.
Yeah. I've definitely been blessed, with a great home and a great situation. Live in a great country, right? I go to a great school as well, a nice Christian school. My mom actually was the principal at that school, so I've kind of been in a very safe environment my entire life, and I'm excited and nervous to be stepping out of that soon. As I progress in my journey in life.
Part of growing up, Joel. You have to, and life's going to bring some challenges to you. I certainly, when I went to Queens, now I'd gone away to camp and I'd gone away for a summer job,
Yeah.
But actually going to Queens, being
Yeah.
3 hours away by train from home, was a new experience.
Yeah.
But if you don't take those experiences, you won't grow.
You won't.
Yeah.
You won't.
So
Absolutely.
you have to put yourself out there. And, yeah.
So what would you say was your greatest adventure?
My greatest?
Adventure.
Oh, going to Tennessee.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure. That was we had 3 young kids. Our kids were varying in age from, so it was 84, so our eldest was 12 and our youngest was 7. And we were going just, I knew the salary, I took a 50% pay cut, so big drop in pay, and like a real big step of faith, and nerve-wracking too, but it was a year and a half. We couldn't get the green card, so there were lots of challenges, but I made lots of friends, and actually, the positive side of all of this, I missed the worst strike in the last 50 years in Quebec. Happened to be when I was away. And so what it did for me also, I came back with a much better attitude.
Right.
Teaching is tough.
Yeah.
And you probably know from your mom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Teaching can be very difficult. In our department, it was tough. We had very high standards. I'm a type A personality, and like this, the way the government treated us back in the 70s in Quebec was terrible. I still look back at it and I can't believe some of the things they did to us, like to the public sector. And so when I went away, my attitude wasn't the greatest. But when I came back and I was able to see a lot of positive things. Including the salary, and the benefits, because in the U.S. you don't have the benefits, and you don't, like if I'd gotten cancer down there, we didn't have a health insurance that would have covered it. We just had a very basic health insurance. And so there were a lot of things when we came back. I said, okay, we haven't got it so bad in Canada. Or in Quebec, in this job.
Yeah, different perspective.
And so it really helped me with my attitude.
Yeah. What part of Tennessee were you at?
It was in Dayton, Tennessee, which is the only thing it's known for basically was the Scopes monkey trial way back in the 1920s. It's close to Chattanooga, about 40 minutes from Chattanooga, about an hour, a little over an hour from Knoxville.
Okay.
So very rural setting, which was great for the kids. It's the only time they lived in a rural setting. We had a farm right behind us.
Okay.
And
Yeah, I love Tennessee. I went there once a few years ago. It's just a beautiful place.
Okay, whereabouts?
Pigeon Forge.
Okay, don't know that.
Yeah, I honestly don't really know my geography when it comes to anywhere in America, but yeah, it was a nice place. It was definitely a nice place, It was in Tennessee.
Well, Tennessee, wonderful climate.
Yeah. Not too hot, not too cold. Yeah. So what are you thankful for?
Oh, I'm thankful for the measure of health I've given. Now, I should maybe add back to my story about how nervous I was public speaking.
Right.
I only found out after my operation, etc. But it might be interesting to people. There's a drug on the market. It's a beta blocker that you can get just to calm you down, because what happens when you get very nervous and the adrenaline gets going, it's the fight or flight syndrome, which is important. But if your neck muscles get tight, you can't speak.
Right. Yeah.
And the saddest thing I ever saw was part of the PhD, you had to give an oral in front of the profs. They were sitting right up front, the 10 organic profs, and then about 100 students behind them. And this is the big oral. And so the trick I used, because I hadn't heard about that drug at that time, is I wrote on the board, and then I'd look. I still remember the title of my talk, I'd look at the audience, say one sentence. Like, here's another example. Right on the board. Look back. One sentence. Right on the board. Saddest thing I ever saw was this guy standing up, and I started to hear his voice break. And it just got worse and worse.
Right.
And he just tried to continually look at the audience and speak. He had no backup plan. And eventually, nothing.
Yeah.
And so his prof had to stand up and tell all of us, okay, go home. And that was the end.
Wow.
He, very sad. So anybody watching this, if you're really nervous about public speaking, go see your doctor, get this beta blocker. Just a tiny amount will do the trick. And that just, from then on, wow, if I had to give a big talk, no worries.
Yeah, absolutely. Modern medicine is
So
definitely
good thing to know.
Yeah, but honestly, sometimes I feel like it's more painful watching people public speak than actually doing, because it's just like you just get so nervous, like just for them. It's just yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, what do you feel most proud of in your life?
Well, this might surprise people. I've been asked this before, and actually, the thing I am the proudest of in Montreal. We were involved in bringing 2 families from Africa to Canada, and I was the point person at our church.
Okay.
Which meant everything went through me.
Right, you're the boss.
Well, the boss, but it was more organizing things and helping them out, and that was, and I was at the airport both times when they arrived. And when the family arrived, so what had happened, the father in the 2 cases had come over to Canada, one time as a refugee claimant and the other time as a skilled immigrant. And then it's a process. For the refugee claimant, it took 4 years. 4 years to get his family over. Wow. And there was a lot of tough stuff that happened that I was involved with that I had to do. It wasn't an easy time. But what a thrill when they came over. The ironic thing, in both cases, when the family actually, and it's quite something, you're at Trudeau Airport in Montreal and you're waiting. It's a special thing they come out of because they've been interrogated by Canadian immigration, and you're waiting for them to come through the door. And both times, when that happened with both of them, the father wasn't there.
Okay.
So I was the one that officially greeted them because they're coming out, they know nobody. And there's this crowd of people. So I was the one, I had myself stationed at the front of the line, and I was able to call out to them. And then they would come to me, and just imagine the feeling that they're getting, having been on a flight all day from Africa or flights. Very heartwarming time for me. So that is actually what I'm proudest of.
Yeah, it makes sense. I wouldn't know how it would feel to go into a foreign country, right? Just have no one, right?
Oh yeah, the way these people are stepping out. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't know if I have anything.
What are you proud of?
I don't really
17 years.
I've been thinking. I don't know, if there's anything I've specifically done.
Well, your musical milestones.
I have done a few things with music. I help at the church. I play for worship and stuff like that. But other than that, I don't think there's ever been a single event that I've done that I've been, But
you're young.
I've got time. I've got my time.
Yeah.
So, what brings you joy?
Helping others, and it really does. And actually, I almost prefer it to be in the background. It's some people have accused me occasionally because I talk too much and maybe being a little boastful. I have to watch it.
Right.
That I don't, and I'm sorry I'm talking so much here.
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
But I actually really like to help out people, and I don't care. I'll actually prefer if other people don't know.
Yeah.
There's a great verse in the Bible that says, do not do your deeds or your acts of righteousness before men to be seen by them. If you do, you will have no reward from your Father in heaven.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, probably something that gave me joy. I mean, I think I would have to agree with you, right? Just like, you know, loving God and loving others. You know, there's nothing quite like fulfills you as, you know, helping someone else, right?
Yeah.
Just like, you know, giving something to someone, especially.
Yeah, and if you put yourself out there, Joel, now you're still very young, but as you get older, incredible, shall we say, unusual opportunities will come. Some of them very tough, but there really is joy in serving others.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know, the heartfelt thanks that you get from them when you step in and you did something when they were maybe just right at their wits' end. And I don't want to tell you about some of the things I've done because that will sound like boasting. But it really, when you look back, that gives me just tremendous joy that I was there.
Absolutely.
And for that person in that situation, I made a difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I actually, it's interesting. I like doing things that are tougher or other people aren't going to do it. If there's a simple thing that anybody can do, I tell my wife, no, let somebody else do that. So I actually have gotten my greatest joy out of these other things where I know God is basically like Esther. You know, He's put you in that place. As Mordecai said to Esther, you know, who knows, but what God has put you in that situation for a day like this.
So, use your gifts.
So as you go through life, Joel, if you make yourself available, you are going to be used by God. And it's great to hear that you're going on a mission trip.
I'm really
You're
excited.
making yourself available, and you know, hopefully you're going to make a big difference to somebody.
That's what that's one of my main goals in life. Absolutely. So let's think. So how do you get through your tough times?
Really rely on the Word of God for sure. And I got a great partner in my wife. I know in the things I do that, like some of these tough things I've done, I know she's there. She backs me up. She won't lead. I'm the leader. But I know if I need her in these things, she will back me up. So the Word of God is wonderful. You know, I pray, but and can I mention a bit? I was going to. It's sort of on the other at the end. When I was 56 years of age, and I'm 79 now, but a fellow in our church came to me, and he says, Gord, I think you might be interested in a memorization challenge. And I'd memorized scripture before, just individual verses. But this was a very structured program. It's actually called Memlock, M-E-M-L-O-K, not with a C. Memlock.com. And it really appealed to me because it was topic related. So you can pick a topic, anything, humility, deity, forgiveness, whatever. There's about 50 topics that this man has listed, and he gives you up to about 10 verses on each of these topics, short verses, so you're not memorizing a long package. Anyways, it has been really transformative in my Christian life, because now these verses are flowing through me. And so in various situations, they just come to me. And so and actually, to tell you, my wife, probably 5-10 years after I started, she decided to do it too. And we both continue to this day. And so that's been wonderful. If people think they're too old, well, I started at 56. But it keeps your mind active. And that's, as you get older, that's very important. That's not why I did it. The reason I did it was, although I could give answers to people, if they asked me questions, I could give rational answers, like from the Bible. it's not as good as actually quoting a verse.
Yeah.
When you can quote a verse, and I don't memorize the actual reference, like where in the Bible it's from, because if I'm online, I can find it in 30 seconds if you want to know.
Right.
But that has been transformative for this latter part of my life. And so that really helps me to get through tough times, because I got a bunch of verses that I can bring up pretty quickly.
Yeah, so it's called Memlock, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to use that. I need to get on my
I can look at it and just see it, that for me it just fit perfectly. And,
yeah. Absolutely. So, is there anything in your life you feel like is a struggle right now?
Well, I had a hip replacement exactly 7 weeks ago today, and that's certainly been a struggle. That's a major operation, and I mean, I'm making progress, but it's I've had to, I know I have to do the exercises, etc., and work myself hard. But it's a sort of thing. It's a 3-month convalescence, and actually 1 year before you're 100%. So right now it's 7 weeks. I still need a cane to walk, unless I can walk without a cane, but with a big limp, and that's a little frustrating. I would. So I know I've got a long stretch ahead of me before I'm going to be playing tennis again.
Yeah.
What about you? Have you had any big struggle in your life?
I don't think I've really struggled health-wise. I caught pneumonia a few times in grade like 7 and 8, but I'm past that now. But I think ever since COVID, I think loneliness has been a struggle for me in my life. Maybe not so much, like right now in this moment, but every once in a while. I think it really started with COVID. I think a lot of people my age just kind of struggle with that, just like kind of a feeling of isolation. But with God's help and stuff like that, I've found ways to fight it, and have my community of friends, and I have family. But I think that's
Joel, it's not just your age. I can tell you, for the older people, COVID was devastating. Particularly people who lived alone. I had my wife. It was really devastating for people who lived alone. So I basically forced myself out when I felt okay, I can get out now, and and even if it meant wearing a mask. So the social aspect as you get older, you may or may not know this. The social aspect is huge. Huge.
So I guess we're all dealing with loneliness then, I guess.
Well, to a greater, but post-COVID, we're in a good place now. Although I just caught COVID 2 weeks ago. So for a week it was just my wife and I, and then she got it from me. So for a week I didn't interact with anybody except over the phone. I waited till day 8 and then wore a mask.
Yeah, it's easy to forget that COVID's still around, right? You think no one's wearing the mask, like, what's COVID? Did that even happen? But it can still get people. We got my friend's parents for a while, but it's still around there. Yeah. So what are like personal strengths that help you get through your struggles?
My personal strength would, while getting through the struggles, my determination. I'm not a quitter.
I can tell.
A winner never quits and a quitter never wins. We learned that from our high school football coach. If I know, so I am determined, and that helps. I never had a problem with addictions, but back in my day we didn't have the chemical addictions. But I don't think I would have had a problem with it because I'm a strong personality. My brother, on the other hand, did have some trouble with addictions, which fortunately he got professional help and eventually got better. But
that's good.
Having a strong will can help at times, as long as you got it in the right direction.
Of course.
The trouble with those of us with strong wills is you've got to try and know when to back off. and you've
Yeah.
got to be open and listening to others. And that's, so when you're strong-willed, you can be outspoken, so I can be outspoken.
Yeah.
But I think I am open to correction. I've actually told my wife, you know, if I say something wrong, you correct me.
Yeah.
I want to be corrected.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
So you try and combine that. Anyway, so the strong will has helped me through tough times, the Bible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My name is Joel Preston, and I'm with Gord Hambly.
And we've had a good time chatting.
Right, we've had a good time chatting.
As usual, I did most of the talking.
Oh, no, it was a pleasure getting to know you.
But I've lived a lot longer than you.
Yeah, yeah.
Almost 5 times as long.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Wasn't that great? Seeing how a family has affected 2 different lives in 2 different ways, although they lived in the same household. So Joel and Gord, thank you very much. And thank you to New Horizons Senior Program for making this program available. Have a good evening.